Hi, good evening. So we'll just wait for a couple of minutes before we start with today's live, which is on trauma bond. So those who are joining in, please stay connected for a couple of more minutes. Hi, Shrestha. Am I clearly audible? Hi, Aheli. All right, we'll just wait for one more minute and then we will start with today's live, which is on trauma bond. So please stay connected. Hi, Jeet. Thank you for joining, everyone. We were supposed to connect at 8, but due to some emergency, we had to reschedule the live to 9 p.m. So we'll just wait for one more minute for people to join and then we will start the discussion on trauma bond. Hi, Kazi. Good to see you here. Okay, I think we can start with the discussion and slowly people can join in. I would first say that, hi Chandrani. So I would first say that although this topic, trauma bond, sounds very, मेरे साथ तो ऐसा शायद नहीं हुआ या मुझे नहीं पता किसी के साथ ऐसा हुआ है कि नहीं. But trust me, about 80 to 85% of the people have experienced trauma bond in their life. Either they have experienced as a first hand experience. My screen is flickering. Okay, I don't know, I'll not be touching it anymore. I think it should be fine now, right? Okay, so what I was saying is people think that they probably have never come across such kind of a relationship in their life, but the survey says that 80 to 85% of the people have experienced trauma bond relationships in their life. Either they have had a first hand experience or they have known people who have gone through a trauma bond experience in their life too. Now, personally in my life, I have been in a relationship which was also can be categorized into a trauma bond. Also, since the time I've started practicing, I have seen people, I have met people who have or who are going through trauma bonds in their relationships. Now, when I say relationship, it is not only romantic relationships, it can be a relationship of anything. So, what is this trauma bond? Trauma bond is basically a kind of a relationship which is full of abuse. Now, the abuse does not mean only physical abuse. It can be a lot of mental abuse. It can be like, you are mentally extremely disturbed. You are being pushed to the corner or anything. Or there can be physical abuse, or there is too much of fight. What should I say? It is absolutely not a peaceful relationship. It is always marked by a lot of chaos, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, and you're always suffering because of this trauma bond relationship. The problem is this nature of the relationship is there is a cycle, there is a period of abuse. It is followed by some positive reinforcement, like let's say झगड़ा होता है किसी में and it's bad, it's worse, like they start triggering each other, they start bringing their past into each other, they start throwing dirt at each other, and then once this entire period is over for, let's say, what should I say, for a week or so, or maybe 2 days, 3 days, or maybe just that day itself, suddenly the person who was throwing dirt and saying, I was not in myself, I was going through a bad phase, everything will be fine, and this gives assurance to the other person that the person will change. I can change the other person, and this cyclical nature goes through. So this bond that you feel towards the person who is abusing you, and you're not able to get out of this relationship, this kind of relationships comes under trauma bond. Now, why it is trauma bond? Because this relationship, this bond gives you a lot of pain, but you're not able to come out of this relationship because there is too much of there is always some positive reinforcement. या गलती हो गई मुझसे, या भूल जाओ, everything will be fine. They will come, they will ask for forgiveness, and they will repeat the same behavior again. This cyclical nature continues to go. Now you can ask that why it is not possible for people to break away from such relationships. There can be multiple factors. One of the most important factor that has come up in case of trauma bond couples or trauma bond relationships. By the way, the trauma bond can be between two couples, or it can be between mother and children, it can be between the parents, it can be between a kidnapper and a hostage. Any kind of relationship where there is abuse followed by some positive reinforcement which gives the other person hope that you can change them. Possibly this hope is what clings you to that particular relationship. Apart from this hope, the other aspect which has been found is financial dependency. A lot of people are dependent on these abusers financially. Why does this hope for change occurs, and how to get over it? Yes, I can change this person. Yes, that is exactly what I am answering, Aheli. This hope is happening because the person on the other hand is actually giving you certain signals that they will change, and they say that galti se ho gaya, and it will I will get over it, I will not repeat it, I will do whatever you tell me. They will say things like this, which gives you a hope that you can change these person. But the fact is, if they have to change, they will show it through actions. But these people don't change. These people will continue to do the same mistake. Their words and their actions won't match. How to get over it, you will get to know today towards the end when I talk about how to get over it. So these people are not able to get over it. A, this hope. B, the financial dependency. C, the society. A lot of people are trapped into these relationships because they are not able to come out of it because of the society, because of the expectations their parents have from people, or the other societal expectations that can have, or the expectation you have from yourself that no, you cannot break away from a relationship. The expectation that लोग मुझे छोड़ के जाते हैं, मैं कैसे किसी को छोड़ सकता हूँ या छोड़ सकती हूँ. This kind of what should I say, unrealistic expectations that you impose on yourself, that also makes you stay in such a traumatic relationships. And I'm saying it over and over again, it is not necessarily it has to be physical. It can be absolutely a mentally abusive relationship too. So this makes it very difficult for the person to break away, because they hope they will change, they hope they have nowhere else to go to. Probably they have children, they are thinking of their children, they are thinking of so many other factors which stops them from breaking away. Well, whatever they see, they think that they will be able to help the person to get over it. Is there any chance that the abuser will change? Actually, if the abuser has to change, they will change. They could have shown some bit of change within your period of relationship with the person. If the abuser shows no change, they just say but there is no actions, then the thing is the abuser doesn't want to change. And you cannot really change an abuser unless the abuser himself or herself does not want to change, by their own. And for changing, the very first thing which is needed is introspection. In majority of the cases, these abusers, they actually don't introspect. They will, just to manage the situation or to get some kind of momentary benefit from the person, they will simply say, ha, sab ho jayega, sab theek ho jayega, everything will be fine, we'll get over it. But then again, after few days, the same cycle repeats. I'll talk about one of my patients. She used to, not current, she has got over this relationship, but she used to be in this traumatic relationship for a long period of time. Okay, long period, as in for example, this lady was stuck in the relationship and she was abused physically, mentally, everywhere, but then she got stuck because she thought that that's the best she can get. She cannot get anything better than this. And when it used to become too much, she used to react. The moment she used to react, that abuser comes and says, no, no, everything will be fine, everything will be fine. They used to have some intimate moments, and that lady used to think that, yes, actually she will be able to change this person for good. But it never happened. Like this, 7 years have passed, and this lady could not get this person to get over that. So what happened is, this expectation that we have, that just because some momentary, we tend to ignore the red flags, we tend to ignore everything, because whatever is that momentary things matches with what we actually want to see. We are seeing what we want to see, we are not seeing what is actually happening, and that keeps us stuck in the relationship. In most of the trauma bond relationship, you would see there are people around those person who are telling them get out of this relationship, but they will not say that, they will not see that also. They will not see that because they are seeing what they want to see, and those momentary things is what they want to hold on to, until it becomes very, absolutely towards the end, when they really can't do anything, and finally, thank God, they can move out of such relationships. This is the whole history of trauma bond. Now, what are the signs of this trauma bond? As I said, that one is definitely the power imbalance. You would see that there is one dominator in the relationship, the other person is merely the passive person. The person actually goes ahead. Just imagine, I am a very assertive person, but if in one of my relationships I had been a very passive, I used to consider, okay, chalo ठीक है, शायद कोई problem हो रहा होगा, शायद this हो रहा होगा, that हो रहा होगा, and I used to consider so many things. But basically what is happening is, I am telling myself that no, don't think like that, don't think negative, everything is fine, everything is fine. But everything was not fine, and my mind knew way before my heart accepted that everything was not fine. So that is one of the aspect of trauma bond, power imbalance. You would see that majority of the decisions, majority of the calls are being taken by one person in that relationship. Then one is the dominator. Dominator as not in dominating the relationship. It's basically that person is taking the shots in the relationship. The second is a cyclical nature, as I was saying. Bad, a little bit of good which gives you hope, and again bad. Like this, the cycle keeps on going on and on and on. So other key signs which I probably, based on all the cases that I have handled so far, I have noted down a few points which I would like to share with all of you about the trauma bonds. First thing is, you feel very unhappy in the relationship, and it's like that. You don't even like your partner anymore, but you are unable to call it off. That is one of the sign of trauma bond. You don't feel happy, you don't like them, but yet you cannot get out of such relationships. So that is one aspect. Second thing is, when you think of aaj niklenge is relationship se, every time you think of such things, you feel extremely physically and emotionally distressed. That this distress is probably what is going to happen after that. Am I going to suffer from loneliness? Am I going to just end up being alone? What will society say? What will my parents say? There's so many other factors that distresses you. And also the factor that, how can I leave somebody? Then what is the difference between me and someone else? So such kind of thoughts continues to go on, which makes us feel extremely distressed. Okay. The next one, which I feel is one of the signs of traumatic relationship, is whenever you say that you really want to break away from the relationship, that time only that abuser will come. Nay, I promise nothing will happen, everything will change. And those promises are meant, or those promises are made, which of course baseless. They are just words. They are not followed by any kind of fruitful action. Next is when you kind of, others are expressing concerns about their behavior. For example, me as a therapist, I am explaining concerns about the behavior of the person, but you are giving excuses for their behavior. So let's say somebody has done something bad to you and I'm expressing concern, like why would they behave like this with you. You are actually fighting the case for them. You start giving excuses that that is the reason, probably they had a bad day, that's why they are behaving like this. So you start fighting for them, and that is another sign of trauma bond. That is another way that people can see all around you, but you don't want to see. You just want to have a blindfold and fight the case for them to save the relationship, which end of the day you will not be able to save. And you continue to trust them because of such momentary good memories or good things that you have, and you hope that you will change them, but of course it does not happen, it will not work. And often many people I have seen, they protect their abuser by keeping these abuses as a secret. They don't share. Even though when it comes to trauma bond for the patients, I have seen probably they have shared lot, but I can vouch they still have not shared many things because they feel extremely ashamed to share such things. And ashamed not only that they have to vocalize that, but also to realize that they have actually endured those kind of abuse in their relationships. So these are some of the signs of trauma bond. And it this trauma bond thing, this even though it happened years ago, if you have not survived, if you have not healed from those trauma bond relationships, it can continue to linger for a long period of time, because the abuses that happens, it leaves a scar, it leaves a mark on your body, on your tissues, on your memory, everywhere. So that's why we say that don't stretch it to a point where it breaks. It not only breaks the relationship, it breaks you from within. Know where to stop. It is very, very important to know where to stop. It is far, far better staying alone than to stay with somebody who is continuously the reason for your mental anxiety, your mental stress, or the kind of tension that you are always living in. So this lingering, there are people who have come out of the trauma bond relationship, but because this lingering thing is happening, that what is that person doing, has the person changed, is the person online, is the person talking to somebody, that addiction that this person has created on you, you would try to reach out to this person. So just imagine, the abuser basically doesn't realize anything. The abuser thinks, okay, gayi to gayi. The person who's getting abused, finally when they make a point to come out of this relationship, even after that, this feeling of trauma bond can linger on for a long period of time. Lingering as in you would like to go to them, you would like to reach out to them, you would like them to reach out to you, which will give you a hope. Basically you had created an image in your mind, and you want any 1% of hope to match that image, so that you know that you are right. But the fact is, no matter how much you linger on, how much you want to get back to them, you are only extending your painful life. You're only extending the pain, the anxiety, and the stress. It is sometimes very important to let go, because it hurts less than holding on to such kind of relationships. Okay, so when we are going through this kind of trauma bond relationship, there are some basic things that happens in our brain, which is called the fight, flight, or freeze. What is the fight, flight, or freeze? We all know these are the three primary defense mechanisms that human beings have: fight, flight, or freeze. Fight as in either you want to run away from the situation, you don't want to talk about it, and you feel so scared, you feel ashamed, you don't want to get out and meet anybody. Fight, the fight is when you want to push, when you want to fight with them, when you want to tell them why they are being reactive, why they do behave like this, things like this. But when this continues for a long period of time, when you are in this trauma bond relationship for a long period of time, from fight to flight, it moves to the freeze zone. What is the freeze zone? The freeze zone is when you just feel stuck, when you don't feel you have the energy, the power to go ahead and fight back, to say anything, to even look for help, to even feel that you can do anything. You just feel you are a victim. You just feel that I can't do anything anymore. You will just keep quiet. You will just spend some time alone. And when people ask you about do you need help or anything, I don't know. Basically you start feeling that you are the person who is responsible for this situation, because you have continued it for such a long time. This entire relationship had an impact on you. You start feeling you are responsible for such a situation. That person is not responsible. That person is okay. So you become frozen. You cannot take any decision what needs to be done and what can be done in this situation. So just imagine one relationship where you went with so much of hope, so much of happiness. It leads you to this kind of a situation. In fact, there are people who are watching this live, I will not name, there are people who had been into these trauma bond relationships. So when I am aware, the fact is now that I'm aware that I was in a trauma bond, what can I do about it? It's easier said and done ki chalo move out kar jao. Move out so you will do, but then it takes a long period, because that vacuum that is created, that person was there, now they are not there. So this vacuum makes you go back to that same abuser, and that lingers on the traumatic bond, that impacts your brain, that impacts your emotions, impacts your relationship with not only that person but with other person. You start suffering from social anxiety. You start avoiding people. So this person did not only impact this relationship, it created a scar which started impacting everywhere else, everywhere part of life, because you are just one human being. You have just one brain, one heart. So it has just created a scar all around. I have seen people who had been in trauma bond, they have stopped talking to people after they have come out. They have just stopped communicating with people. They suffer from so much of social anxiety. They suffer from so much of trust issues. Very natural. But the fact is, it has gone to that extent because of which you are suffering right now. You cannot believe anybody. For people who are actually trying to help you, you try to push them away also. You don't have friends. They basically make you an island. That's the best example of trauma bond. They make you an island. From a fully fledged country, they take away everything and they make you an island. Now with this island, and islands are beautiful. We some of us go for vacation in islands. So the fact is, how do you get out, completely isolate yourself from this abusive relationship so that the life starts sprouting in your island? That is the main question. Okay. So you have to first ensure that whenever this repetition of cycles are happening in your relationship, every time, once or twice is okay. You're all human beings. But if this is a pattern that you are noticing, stop ignoring these patterns. Because every time you ignore a pattern, you're actually making this trauma bond more strong. Every time there is a positive reinforcement, you're actually making, your hope is increasing, and the trauma bond relationship is becoming more strong. The foundation is becoming very strong. So it's very important that when you observe a pattern, either talk to the person or start noticing all the things. Why are you still with the person? You should not be a slave to your own emotions. That's not why emotions are there for human beings, right? Human beings have emotions because that is how we feel. Now that feelings, if you become a slave to your feelings, that's the worst kind of slavery you can ever be, because that will keep you stuck in that particular relationship. Very, very important this point is. So if I have to tell you what are the steps that you can actually take in to ensure that you are not stuck in a trauma bond relationship, or if you know someone who is stuck in a trauma bond relationship, first of all, these people need support. These people need constant support, and you cannot expect them to take a decision in one day. So you have to constantly be with them, and give them the supportive environment, that even if they come out, they will not be alone. That is the first thing. They need support network. The next thing is, maintain a journal, diary, a journal. Just take a, write down the date and time and what happened. And after 1 month, you would see that most of the things which you used to ignore, it has happened so many times over a month or a couple of months. So this journal will make you, realize, because often when we don't write, we tend to forget, we tend to just chalo hoye kya kab hua tha yaad nahi. But if this is a pattern that is happening, start keeping a note of it, because this will help you like an eyewitness. This is like a witness to the suffering that you are enduring. So, and this will help you to continuously make you understand that this is not the life that you would choose for yourself. Because for the sake of being in a relationship and then getting abused, it's far better to be alone. If you do not improve your relationship with yourself, of course you can't improve any relationship with anybody else for that matter, right? Next is start considering relationship from another perspective. Don't ignore the red flags, because when you start writing the journals, you will observe a lot of red flags happening around. Start counting all the red flags. Check your values. Which values are important for you? If your value is honesty, if your value is trustworthy, an abuser does not fit into any of these two qualities, right? Neither they are trustworthy, neither they are honest, because they are actually not keeping up to their words. So you are not only defying the red flags, you are also defying the values which makes you. So if you think the relationship is meant to be respectful, the relationship is meant to be loved, but you don't get any of them, why are you in this relationship? It's an addiction. So what's the difference between you and between a person who's addicted to alcohol? So this, I am saying this with so much conviction, because I had been in this kind of a relationship myself. And when I moved out, initially it was a little difficult, but after that it was so free. I just felt that this person was actually an ordinary person. What made it special? The way I looked at this person made this person special. Otherwise, this person is just as ordinary as anybody else. So, in order to, if it is only us who make each other special, then don't make an abuser feel special, because that is not what our value system teaches us. An abuser cannot be special. An abuser needs to be left if they cannot understand, if they repeat these patterns over and over again. You are not the parent for an overgrown child. Please note this. You are not a third parent for your overgrown child. If he has 25 years or 20 years or 30 years of his life, if he has become like this, don't try to become a counselor or a therapist and you would change them. Because if somebody wants to change, they will show some symptoms, they will show some kind of interest that I want to change. If they just say and there is no matching, don't waste your time into this. Your life is too short for spending years and years with an abuser, because it just doesn't make sense. And physical abuse and mental abuse both comes under legal offense, both of them. So it is very important that you need to know when to stop. It is very, very important. Don't sacrifice your value systems, your life, just because your emotions are telling you that you have to stay over there. So our thoughts impacts our emotions. So the more you write, the more you can see how much this person has done damage to you. This will only change your emotions towards that person. You have to stop ignoring. I will say ignoring the red flags. It's very, very important. You ignoring the red flag doesn't change the reality. The reality still remains the same. Next is, when you come out of the relationship, cut off the contact completely. Not like आज मिलेंगे, कल मिलेंगे, अनब्लॉक करके देख लिया एक बार कि डीपी तो चेंज नहीं किया, किसी के ऑनलाइन है, किससे बात कर रहा है. नो, डोंट डू दैट. Don't get into this trap. If you have taken so much of courage to get out of this traumatic relationship, don't extend this bond with the person. It will be difficult. I understand. We all have been through this kind of relationship. But it is not impossible. But if you continue to, you know, stalk the person, if you continue to keep in touch with the person, how minor it is, you're still lingering the trauma bond with this person. Cut off contact completely in bold caps, underlined in red. It is very, very important, because until you cut off contact completely, there is always something or the other will be pouring into your life, and that will not help you to heal completely. Next is, once you are over all these things, once you're over this cutting off the contact completely, the next thing you should work on is the damages that has been done to your self esteem, self confidence, self love. Build up on that. How can a person treat us like a doormat? It is like, I'm not talking about only females or males, anybody. I have seen males in trauma bond relationship. It took me years to get out of one of my male friend out of a trauma bond relationship. That's a different thing. Once he went out of the trauma bond relationship, he forgot me. That's a different thing altogether. But I had helped this person. Now the fact is, once you have come out of the damage that was done onto your self-esteem, self-confidence, you have to start building onto it. As somebody who has very high self-esteem, self-confidence, self-love, they would not allow such kind of a relationship happening into their life. Why would you accept something which is lesser than what you deserve? So work on those crevices so that you don't repeat this mistake again and again. It's very important to learn all the mistakes that you have committed in the last relationship. Work on them, work on yourself before you move on to another. Otherwise you will keep on bleeding onto the relationship that probably is actually a fruitful or productive one. So very, very important is cut off contact with all this traumatic, all this people who tries to bring out the worst in you, and start spending time with people who tries to help you to develop, help you to become more productive. And look into yourself, what are the areas why this person could behave something like this with you, which means what? Somebody treated you as a doormat. And why somebody treated you as a doormat? Because you allowed. Plain and simple, you allowed, I allowed. Without my permission, nobody can do that. So if I have allowed, that means there are some mistakes, some gaps somewhere. We have to work on those aspects. It's very, very important. And finally, if you think that you are unable to do anything of your own, even with your friends' help, always consider professional help. The whole idea of creating awareness is 85% of the people are in trauma bond relationship and they think it's normal. It's not normal. Abuse in a relationship is not normal. No matter how many times our Bollywood make Kabir Singh a very hyped movie, it's not normal. Making abusive heroes or actresses as they are like the power figures. No, it's not normal. You are supposed to be loved, respected, honored in a relationship. If somebody is not doing it and failing it over and over and over again with no change, that means it's a signal for you to move out of that relationship. It's better to have 10 failed relationships in your life than to have the failed relationship with yourself. Don't create that traumatic bond if despite knowing the harm that it is creating. So also another thing is, one of the major factor which creates trauma bond is physical intimacy. So all kind of abuse and then physical intimacy or affection or something, then you have some hope. So ensure when these things are happening, ensure where to stop, when to stop, what to call off. Very, very important. Your dignity, your respect, your life is actually in your hands, and nobody can make you feel this worthless than these kind of people whom you didn't even know a few years ago. So know when to stop. So that's pretty much about trauma bond. Hi Orithro, we are almost towards the end. So that's pretty much about trauma bond I really wanted to talk about, because about the 10-15 cases that I am dealing with right now, majority of them, all of them are trauma bond relationships, barring a couple of them. So I thought of talking about these topics. Hopefully, if you found this was helpful, feel free to share, to reach out to those people who might just feel the courage to talk and come out and live, you know, breathe properly and live properly with full dignity. So that's pretty much about it. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And we'll come back with another live next week. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.